Hey, how you guys doing today? I'm kind of tired, I'm kind of exhausted, but I figured I'd make this video anyway because I had something to talk about. I want to talk about what I think about the robber barons. The robber barons, they're assholes. It's that simple. They're assholes. They're robber barons, for those of you who don't know, is the main term for the big bankers, the people who run the Federal Reserve. They're the people who basically control the money. They were known as the robber barons in the past. Andrew Jackson, back in the 1800s, they had a first Fed that was established after America was founded in the 1700s. And this first Fed was doing all this inflationary money printing bullshit where they, have money and then it's paid back at money plus interest. So they got to keep borrowing more and more to cover the debt. So money keeps going up until they control all the assets, right? It's about buying up all the assets. And, that's what the game Monopoly is based on, man. It's about having all the assets and everyone's paying into it, but they don't have any real money because what's money without the backing of gold? So Andrew Jackson, the greatest president of all time, he squashed out the first Fed. And historians today refer to him as the president that almost collapsed the economy of America back in the 1800s, but he was a hero. I think they put him on the $20 bill to mock him. I really do, because the $20 bill is used more than any bill, and it says on the back of the bill, "In God we trust." Words are spells. Words, okay, so I know a lot about esoteric principles. Words are straight up spells, and what "in God we trust" means is money is your God, and you trust in it, and what your trust in it gives it value. That's exactly what that term means. It's an esoteric spell. And so Andrew Jackson squashed out this first Fed, and then he backed the money supply with silver, okay? He backs the money supply with silver. I think it was silver. And then in the early 1900s, they established the second Fed. And the second Fed's doing the same thing. It says, oh, it's going to be so great. We're going to back this money with gold. It's going to be such a good economy. It's going to maintain stability and maintain order. And who said that? Palpatine from Star Wars. Emperor Palpatine said the same thing. So, they say this and they promise stability and order. But what's really happening is, let's say the very first loan the Fed ever issues to the government. $1 million loan, and the government's like, okay, we're going to give you $1 million in bonds for this $1 million loan. Now the loan has to be paid back, let's say, at 10% interest, so they got to pay them back $1,100,000, but they only have $1 million from the loan. So where does the other 100,000 come from? It's got to be borrowed again by the Fed. They got to borrow more money, and so the debt goes up and up and up, and it can never go down. It always has to go up, which means inflation is a consistent. Money's always going up consistently. And then when you do things like, it could have remained stable for a lot longer, honestly, but we've made some really bad decisions over the years. Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, and now they could just print as much money as they wanted. And then he tied money to OPEC so that foreign nations would trade all their oil in dollars so that we could get rich quick. And it paid off really big in the short term, but it's hurting us now in the long term, right? So eventually, after like 100 years or so, between all these different factors and the inflation, the money starts to go like this, right? And then you had the '08 thing, and you had all these different crises. You had all these different crises that have happened, but with '08 especially, it gave them the excuse to print as much money as they wanted. And this, I think, was their grab, because I think they were going to get to the point where they were going to start going like this soon anyway. And I feel like the robber barons, what they did was they, I can't prove anything now. I don't want to sound like, like I'm like, oh, they're out to get us. But basically, even though I'm sure we all know they are, but that's aside the point. So, so now they have a reason to print all this money through quantitative easing nonstop, and they print all this money and give these bailouts to their buddies in the banks and companies like BlackRock. Well, now these companies will take that money and they'll use it to buy up all the assets, all the farmland, all the gold, all the silver, all the resources, the real resources with tangible value, okay? And when they own everything, then we own nothing. And they're not even trying to hide it anymore. They're like, you're going to own nothing and like it, and you're going to be a good little bitch, and we're going to control everything, and you're going to have absolutely nothing, and it's going to be a great deal for us. So, these robber barons, they're a bunch of assholes. It's that simple. I mean, you can argue with me if you want it. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, but I don't think anyone disagrees with me. I think they did a poll, a survey on how many people actually trust these robber barons. Like they said, what percent of people trusts Congress or something like that, and it was like 4%. So that's not a really good sign. But I feel like Congress and all these other divisions are just a reflection of the people that control them, which is the robber barons. And there are people that control the robber barons, but that's going a little too deep for this video, and I think I might get into that in a future video. But there's a tiered system to how society works. You know, there's the peasants, there's the nobility, which is the millionaires, then there's the what are they called, like the bishops or the people in the church. You know, in an old society it would be the peasants, the nobility, and then the priest class. The priest class, that's it, which is like these congressmen and presidents and governors and all of them. They're like the priest class. And then beyond that, you have the nobility, which is the people that served alongside the king. And the nobility is essentially these robber barons. And then you have like the king's top advisors and the very inner circle of the king, and those are the people above the robber barons. Then you have the king himself, and I'm not even going to get into who that is because you wouldn't believe me even if I told you. So, yeah, robber barons, they're kind of assholes, they're kind of dicks, you know, but I mean, what I would personally recommend in all this, I think people are very scared these days. I think people feel very out of control, and they feel like they don't really have a grip on what's going on around them because everyone's only one paycheck away from being homeless. What I would recommend is foster acceptance. You know, I say a prayer of acceptance every single day. Every single morning I have this cross here. I'm not a Christian, but I do believe in Jesus. And I say a prayer every single day. You know, I say I accept my past for what it is. I accept my present, or I accept my past for what it was. I accept my present for what it is, and I accept my future for what it will be. You know, because I can't control things outside of my reach. I can only control myself and what's going on with me right now. And I think the best way we can all get to a point where we become more balanced and focused and coherent and like more communal again, you know, because we aren't really communal anymore. Everyone's divided, everyone's separated, everyone's living in fear. So to become more communal again, you foster this acceptance. You take personal accountability for your life, good and bad. And this is a part of my prayer of acceptance too, because when I take accountability for something, I can fix it. So I take accountability for all these things in my life, and I accept all these things out of control in my life. And I work on being the best version of myself. Because if I can be the best version of myself and show other people, be the change I want to see in the world, to show other people how it's done, you know, that's how you should do it. You know, I'm not saying that's how you personally should do it, but that's how I think it should be done if this was practiced on a mass scale, you know, we get a lot further in life, you know. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on it, you know. Robber barons, they're dicks. They're assholes. They have these systems for three reasons. One, to control the money supply, because then they control all the laws and all the society, and they basically control everything. That's the first one. The second one, they can influence world events, like wars and things like that, and global trade. And then the third reason is to buy up all the assets, which is what we're seeing right now. We saw it during a certain thing that happened a few years ago that I can't say on here without getting demonetized, but you know what I'm talking about. And during that time period, they brought BlackRock and those companies, they brought up all the assets, all of them, and that's why they're saying, you know, you're going to own nothing and be happy with it. So when you learn how to foster when you want to learn how to fix your inner world, when you learn how to fix your inner world and what's broken within you, you know, I'm a recovering drug addict, and I had this void inherent in all of us that makes us chase material pleasures to numb out the pain of something we feel is missing inside of us. And the way to do that, the way to fix that, is to fix your inner world. When you work on yourself on an inner level and you foster some sense of inner peace, things become a lot more clear in your path in life, and your purpose in life becomes a lot more clear. That doesn't mean I don't have stressful days. I've been pretty stressed out lately, honestly, but compared to how I used to be like 10 years ago, what would have destroyed me back then is just a bad day today. So Yeah, that's what I think about the robber barons. If you want me to talk about anything else, I'd be happy to. Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think of this video, all right? And you say a prayer for me, and I'll say a prayer for you. Bye, guys.